What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Chat and Draw. What's Chat and Draw, you say? It's a great question. Chat and Draw is a show where I sit down across the digital art table with one of my friends, colleagues, pals, buddies, whoever, and we sit down and we chat. And while we're chatting, I draw live on my iPad for you to see, to put me to the test, to put me through the virtual gauntlet. But who am I to even host such a show? Do I have the credentials for it? Am I qualified to do such a thing? Do I perhaps work in the industry? Well, yes, I do. I'm the publisher of Short Fuse Media Group, the founder of Freestyle Comics, one half of the good, the bad, and the nerdy, the most enthusiastic person in comics, aka the Super Mad Brother, Mike Watson, your host today and every day from Columbus in my virtual art studio in the basement. Yes, I messed all that up at the bottom, at the back end, all messed up. I'm tired, people. You're gonna have to let me slide. That was such a good introduction, and I just let it fall flat. But it happens. Tomato, tomato. We're out of here, baby. We're moving on. So I'm here. I got an awesome guest. We're gonna be getting into this. Can't wait to dive into the show, but we got some things that we need to get out the way. We got some order of rendition. First off, if you're tuning in, please give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscribe. I make it real easy. I'm all about this branding thing. So boom, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, TikTok, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Most Epic Art. You can find me with all those. All right. And oh man, you see this? You see this? Oh yes. The hat, the FSK hat is official, and my Vigilance Chibi art shirt done by the wonderful Veronica Smith. So let's get that plug out the way. T-shirts are on sale. I think there's like 17 hours left right now on our T Republic page, and I think that's awesome because they're cheap. These shirts are normally $20, but now they're $13 right now. Let me get you the bit.ly link. Boom, boom, boom. If you want a shirt, we got some awesome chibi shirts on there. We got our Marvelous FSK shirts on there. We got hoodies, we got cups, we got laptops. We got a lot of stuff on this page. So go check it out. Oh, we got masks. We got masks. I'll be able to show you here in a few days when mine arrive. So all kinds of Freestyle Comics goodness. All on sale for like the next 17, 15 hours. It's like a 32% off discount on all the items there. Go check it out. But, do that with a separate window. Put up a second window and do that, but stay here with us. Now, and a couple other things to shout out. First off, I want to shout out my Patreon members because without them, I would not have a Patreon. So, shout out to Haley Dennis, Andrew Duggan, Brad Arney, Unlikely Hero Studios, and Tom Kelly so much for being a part of my Patreon. If you want to be a part of my Patreon, how about go sign up for it because I got some cool things. This month, I'm going to be adding some new features to it or whatnot, and you can find me as Most Epic Art. Get it? Get it? It's all about that branding. Do you guys give percentage for AOC customers? I'm sorry, Paul. I don't know what an AOC customer is or AO customer. And I'm probably going to feel stupid when you tell me what it is. Oh, Kyron, did you join my Patreon? I didn't know. I haven't been on in a couple days. I'm sorry. If you join the Patreon, shout out to Kyron. I will go check that after the show. Oh, that makes me happy. Awesome. Thank you, Kyron. All right, man. So we had some big things going on in the indie community, man. And I've got to shout out LaShawn Colvin today on the show. I've got to shout her out because she's doing big things popping. In case you didn't know, LaShawn Colvin is the editor over at the Short Fuse Media Group, and she is the writer and co-creator of Beautiful Soldiers. But she also opened up a comic book shop and lounge down there. Look, let me get you hooked up. Go check my girl out because she's out here doing big things. We got her website here. Boom, boom. Check out her website. She's got tons of indie comics there. Go pay my girl a visit. Check her out. She's got beverages. She's got PlayStations, Xboxes, couches. It's laid out. Go check out LaShawn's store. Give her a shout. Find her on Facebook and things like that. Go look it up, all right? Let me see here. Am I almost done with this? Then we can get diving into our show. Oh, yes. I want to promote a Kickstarter that I'm a part of. Crazy Kickstarter. Tons of talent on here. Cthulhu invades Oz. You heard it. That's right. Cthulhu invades the Wizard of Oz. They got a big budget here that they're trying to get 20 grand. We got 19 days to hit that. We're at $10,500 something dollars right now, somewhere in that range. 19 more days. This thing is crazy. 140 pages. We got hardcovers, we got soft covers, we got variants, we got talent out the wazoo. So much I'm never going to mention it. Again, pull up a separate window over to the side and keep this window open. Keep us viewed. All right. We're going to dive into our show, man. We're going to get it in here. Let's go. All right. Oh, sorry. I'm going to mention one more Kickstarter here. We're going to mention one more. We're going to give them a shout out here. And then I'll have my guest actually talk about this because I'm about to bring them up. We're about to quit playing these games. I'm done. Well, I'm not done. I'm going to promote throughout the whole show because it's all about the branding. But I'm going to bring up my guest.
Here comes a new challenger.
Robert Jeffrey, how you doing, sir?
Doing okay, man. Doing okay. I love the was that Street Fighter? The Street Fighter intro. That's what's up. Hopefully, I won't leave here like bruised, beaten and bruised. Like when they used to get beat up back in the day.
Oh, no problem, man. I'm gonna keep my hands to myself. All right. So, Robert, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, why you're here today, and what you got on, and then talk about that Kickstarter. What's up, Jay, man? You're in the building, man.
Hey, partly here to talk about Route 3, and talk comic books, but also we have a Kickstarter going on for. There's a comic book that I wrote for a video game called Armidas, and the really cool thing about the video game is that it's a mixture of like Lost in Space meets See You Yesterday, with featuring two kids of color in the future, and they're essentially using the ideals of STEM to to solve a mystery at a like far flung space or whatever on a different planet. So I had a chance to write a comic book with that for that. Along with the team from Mind to Avenge, Matteo Illuminati and Loris Ravina, and the comic book actually expands the world of the video game. So it's kind of like for kind of a dream for me because I've always wanted to do kind of licensed work, comic book work based on an already existing license, and in this case, it was the video game app. So we have a Kickstarter going on right now for that, and we just started yesterday, looking at raising 10,000 for the development of the game and also the comic book. But so far, so we've had a slow start, but we're hoping to keep chugging along basically. So.
Awesome, man. That sounds like a whole lot of incredible. Please go over and support that. I have a basic theory for Kickstarters. There's one of three ways that you can support a Kickstarter, and you can do any combination of the two, of the three. First off, the easiest and the cheapest way is to share. Advocate for it. Just share it to your network, even if you're not a fan of it. Somebody in your audience may be their thing, something that they want to check out. It could be a matter of, and you're not gonna hurt my feelings or any other creator's feelings, because I've had people buy my comic book just because they like me and not be a fan of the book. They just want to support me because they enjoy me, they like what I'm doing or whatnot, and that's okay. I take that money too. So, so if you just think that Robert's cool, or the people that are working on Cthulhu Invades Odds are cool people, and you just want to share a Kickstarter, that's great. We appreciate it. Money's tight. It's quarantine time. Absolutely get that.
Yeah.
$1 helps. Even if you donate $1 to the Kickstarter, that helps, man. Key example, FSK Day a couple weeks ago, we did a Dollar-thon edition. We raised $803 in one day. So dollars get the wheel moving. So that absolutely helps. We're not going to turn that away. And then the last way is, of course, find something on the pledge level that you like and spend your money on it. So check out those Kickstarters. We're going to be kicking those back out for shoot. Andrew, what's up, man? He just donated $50 to one of the Kickstarters. I don't know which one it was.
That's what's up. Either way, that's awesome.
Andrew just ordered his FSK mask. J-Man's bringing the FSK chant. Thank you. Kyron's in the building. I think Kyron's starting to give people a run for the money for most consistent watcher of the show. America Online. I have no idea why I'm not catching what that is, Paul. Maybe because I got too much excitement going on in my head right now or something. But if you got any questions about it, I think we're Facebook friends. Go ahead and message me, and let's see what we can do to help you out. All right, and yes, Kyron, while we were doing all that talking, I did check my Patreon. I didn't think you were lying, brother, but I just wanted to see it because I like seeing those numbers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Oh man, that's
I
awesome. All
appreciate
right.
that. That is awesome.
Oh, he just backed both of them.
Yeah, I
Yes.
saw that. That's what's up. And then
Awesome. Awesome.
when I went to check, I was like, we went up 50, so that was great. So that's cool.
Awesome. That
Thank you,
is
man.
so good. Thank you, Kyron. Thank you, Andrew. I'm just to make sure I didn't miss anybody. All right, yeah, I think we got them all. All right, so we are streaming live right now on the Facebook, on the YouTube, and on the Twitch, and we're here. We're about to get ready to get popping. All right, I normally I'm drawing a brand new character. Sometimes I like to get a sketch down beforehand, but I did not. I had no idea what I wanted to do with the character because my man just rocks a hoodie and a shirt.
Yeah,
He's got some regular clothes.
Yeah, we can get into that too.
So
But yeah,
it's gonna be a little bit. It's not going to be challenging. But I was just trying to think, what can I do with the character?
yeah,
Robert's
yeah.
doing some amazing concept work and artwork for reference and things like that. I haven't thought of the pose yet, but
Yeah, okay, man.
I've been so deep dived in on Hot Shot 10. I'm like 2.5 pages away from being done, and I've added 2 pages to the book, so it's coming in at 24 pages in total.
That's what's up.
So I like every free moment I've had, I've been trying to get it in so I can wrap it up and move to the next issue. But we're gonna do this today. Okay, Paul is cracking a joke, and that joke went completely over my head. I'm sorry, Paul. I failed you. I understand this, and I am sorry. All right. Let's see here. Let's get our screen shared. So, who are we talking about today? What's our character? Introduce him, Robert.
Yeah. So Sean Anderson is, I guess you call him the protagonist of Route 3. And, the basic, I always say the elevator pitch for Route 3 is it's a arms race, a superpowered arms race through the Southeast. we start off at, wait a minute, can I curse on here? Because I want to make sure.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, so we start off at racist ass Stone Mountain. And by the end of the first story arc, we wind up in the backwoods of Tennessee. So the kid finds out that he has these kind of like world-changing abilities that he knows nothing about, but the people that do want to use them for their own selfish goals. So it's a little bit of a mixture of like Chronicle meets the over-the-top action of the Matrix or even Dragon Ball Z. But at the heart of it, it's a coming of age, tale, but definitely not a typical superhero story. So,
all right. So what is his power set?
So the way that I've been describing it is, if you've ever grown up reading, the Jim Lee era, X-Men, Claremont Lee, X-Men. One of the things that always stood out to me was Jean Grey. And whenever they drew her using her telekinetic abilities, I always saw it kind of as kind of like an offensive based telekinesis, but also they needed a way to draw it so people could understand what her abilities were, I guess. So that's kind of the space that I use. His abilities are telekinetic based, but they can be for offensive or defensive abilities. So we can get as crazy as like Force Blast or whatever, or something where he builds up kind of a shielding around himself, and he can also fly. So that's usually what I kind of use as a point of reference. Jean Grey back in the early '90s, with her abilities.
Okay. All right, so how did the creation of this character begin? How many issues you got of it?
Yeah, so right now we have there are 3 issues, and they are collected in this beautiful looking graphic novel or trade paperback, 100 plus pages. And the goal for me is next year to get the 4th issue out and release, to wrap up the first story arc for within the next 3 issues. So that'll hopefully early next year, if I can get the script knocked out after pushing, doing this client work. But yeah, that's it. That's that right now that's kind of where we're at. And there also is a prequel webcomic, which
Okay.
which kind of talk focuses on some of the, I guess, antagonists, of the from the Route 3 universe. So you can definitely read that, and then that'll be a good kind of segue into the comic book. But you were asking like where the idea came from.
Yeah. How do we create this character? What was
Yeah,
your process for it? Was this like a long time thing, or did you sit down and say, I wanted to make a comic book, so and this
yeah.
came out? How did that process go for you?
So way back when, so I'm originally from Chicago,
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold
and
on, Robert. I
yeah,
also just put in the comments Robert's links where you can purchase the book. He said there's 3 issues out right now.
mhm,
That is posted right there in the comments. You guys can just copy and put in your tab. And just wanted to let you guys know. Go ahead.
awesome, thanks. So so I'm originally from Chicago. So growing up, my comic book reading options were kind of limited because of on my side of town, we didn't have an LCS or a local comic book store. So normally my mom would pick up whatever she found at Walgreens, back in the olden days when they sold comic books at drugstores.
Mm-hmm.
So, I grew up reading at first The Amazing Spider-Man. I remember even picking up, the run of when, The Death of Superman, Archie, and just all of that, and even X-Men. So I had a cousin who was in the Coast Guard, and he lent me like all of his early X-Men books from the Lee Claremont days. And in addition to that, we grew up watching X-Men the animated series and then Batman the animated series. So within all of this kind of perfect storm of comic books that I'm reading, I started realizing kind of at an early age that I didn't see a lot of people who look like me. And
Mm-hmm.
that was getting very frustrating. So so one of the things I, loved doing was also writing. So I decided to write a novel, at the at a very young age, and I Route 3 was that idea. Route 3 was going to be originally like a prose book, and just kind of kept with it, and then it just kind of fell to the wayside. So um, something happened in between now and then, which was very influential for me, was that my dad mailed a bunch of the Milestone media books to us from
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta. So he had, there was a comic book store down here that he had kind of hit up because he was a big nerd himself. And when he found these books, he realized like, I need to get these up to my son. So I was
Oh,
growing up reading like
okay.
Icon, Hardware, Blood Syndicate. Zombie came a little bit later, and Static. So way back when. So when I fast forward to when I graduated from college, I decided I wanted to try to make writing a full time career. So I joined up with the Atlanta Voice newspaper as working as a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
and also use that as an opportunity to kind of build a portfolio so I could start pitching to smaller or indie publishers. And one of the publishers that I came across was Terminus Media. And when they saw that I had put in the work with working as a writer for the newspaper, they taught me how to write comics. And so applying the idea of Route 3 from the prose background, I put that basically, created the comic book series, from
Okay.
that. That was kind of, that was the partly the inspiration, but then also, you know, the idea of using the medium of comics to tell the story that I had always wanted to see, in comic books and even in movies, because I'm a huge Matrix fan, and I always love the fact that there were people of color in there, but the fact that the main hero once again didn't look like me, it wasn't a problem, but I was just like, it was a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
um,
actually,
well,
that
I
was
know,
Will
yeah,
Smith's missed
well,
opportunity.
yeah, that's his missed opportunity. I know, I've heard the story about him saying like he thought it sounded too weird for him, and then he decided to do the Wild Wild West. So in my head, I was just like, that's a kind of big what if. So that's where the idea or the catalyst of Route 3, started with.
That's awesome, and I think that's kind of funny that you're a fan of it. I'm a big fan of Matrix as well.
Hmm.
I mean, I like the sequels too. I know a lot of people complain about them, but
Hmm.
I enjoy the whole franchise. I like how this was another point where you're like, man, I don't see anybody who looks like me. And then years later, we find out that these guys actually did reach out for somebody to look like us, and he
Mhm.
turned it down. But
Yeah.
so that grease is starting to get in that wheel. What are your thoughts on? Hold on. Uh, uh, Robert, I am using the Logic. Uh, it's just a Logic HD 1080p camera. It's like 25 or $30. You can get it on Amazon. Um, what are your thoughts on how things are progressing now with inclusion and diversity within the comic market? I know I don't even think to ask about any indies because indies just do
Yeah.
it as default. So it's not like because we've been doing it for a while, but now we're seeing a lot more of it filter into mainstream things. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, it's they're playing catch up, and I mean,
Yeah.
and that's just kind of how it is. They're the big two, and they're playing catch up, and this is from somebody who has actually worked for DC Comics. So um I try to be as open and honest about that as possible, and it's one of those things where I feel that when I came into, I guess, the industry, when I started studying, specifically like Black indie comics, there were men and women then, um, you know, black men and women then who I felt that should have been working for the big two at that point, and that was back in like 2000, probably like mid 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I really started making a push, like 2006, 2005. And now I'm seeing those same names that I've been big fans of working within the industry, like N.K. Jemisin on Far Sector, Brandon Easton, working on, I think he's actually the first black writer of Judge Dredd. He wrote for Agent Carter for the TV show.
Mm.
And you have Brandon Thomas, who was announced with the future, with a bunch of other creators, including Brandon Easton, to start. He's doing DC Comics work. Then Joffrey Thorne is also doing DC Comics work, and he was just announced yesterday as writing a Black Panther comic
Yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah.
So
I just
yeah,
saw
and
that.
then yeah, and then you have Hannibal Taboo. So I can keep like listing names of Black indie creators who have been killing it for a while, and the I guess the big two or larger companies, they like I said, it's they're catching up to finding this talent, and I'm happy for it. I'm very excited.
Oh,
I
Robert just backed it. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, man. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Um, but I hope that they continue to look at groups of people, talented groups of people who were often overlooked. When it comes to writing these stories, creating these stories. For me, like I said, I went through that. The only reason I got the shot to do like a Green Lantern story was because I did the DC Writers Workshop, and that was huge. But I still have ideas, so I would love to
Yeah.
be able to go back and play in that universe, even more because all of us love these characters, for whatever reasons. And it's we can tell the stories as artists, as writers, as letterers, as inkers, as colorists, as editors, just as well as anybody else. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that it is a case of them catching up to us, because we've been here since God, like for a while, I mean, you look at folks like Dawood Anyabwile with Brother Man, going back to the early '90s. You can take it back even to the '80s. I mean, there's so much talent out there, and the tired excuse of like, well, we don't know where to look. I mean, the internet is out there. I mean, if just as hard as you want to find a certain demographic who's been writing and drawing these books in the majority for a while, you can find just as many of us who are just as talented, if not more, in certain cases, who can do just as well. So, but that's specifically as far as the comic book industry. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the mainstream. So, and I think that there have definitely been strides made. Like I said, DC Future State. I was so happy for all the brothers and sisters that have been announced. For that. Marvel put out an anthology with. large group of Black creators. I think it was like last year, and I can't remember the name of it. And a lot of other publishers have you know pulled talent from our indie ranks. I just want it to keep happening. So.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying, man. I think a lot of it, there's a lot of it popping up in the industry, and I'm noticing it more and more with the TV shows that we're getting, the cartoons that we're getting, um, and I think it's good, man. I think it's good. I don't think all of it's good. Like,
Mhm.
you know, there's a couple shows where I'm like, I got to support it for the culture.
Okay.
I got to at least check it out. But
Right.
but then I'm like, I checked it out. I don't like it. But
Well,
I think if you don't at least watch these things to find
mhm.
out if you like it or not, then it's just giving them signals that we don't want it.
Right. Well, I mean, but that's the thing. You're not going to like everything you watch. It
Hmm.
just is what it is. I mean, I tell the story every day about. I mean, whenever, whenever Tyler Perry gets brought up, my wife and I went to IHOP, for breakfast with my dad and my brother, and my dad and my brother got into a legit argument about Tyler Perry
Hmm.
at at the IHOP. It got a little close to being embarrassing because I think this was one of the few times that I introduced my wife to my brother and my dad. And my dad, but on one side of things, one side of the argument, my dad was like he couldn't stand anything that Tyler Perry had done, and I'll leave whatever colorful language out of this conversation that he used at that IHOP. But my brother was on the other end where he he found some of the stuff that Perry does maybe funny, but also he just acknowledged that his hustle
Yeah.
for the businessman and the filmmaking aspect of things, and so it's one of those things where once again you got two black folks who don't agree on a particular source of entertainment, and that's how it's always going to be.
Hmm.
But I always just say like definitely give it a shot. If it's for you, it's for you. If it ain't the end of the world. So
Right.
that's that's kind of how, and everybody has their different tastes. Like I'm more of a Star Trek person than Star Wars, but Star Wars keeps pulling me over. So
Hmm.
that's how I see that I guess that argument about things.
I absolutely agree with that. I am not a fan of Tyler Perry stuff. Now there is some of it that makes me laugh or
Hmm.
whatnot, but I think it needs some work.
Hmm.
But I do respect the hell out of one thing that Tyler Perry said. If you're talking about my work, you don't like my work, you're trashing my work, then my work isn't for you. You're not the audience that I am targeting. And I think there's a lot of validity in what he says because he has an audience, a
Hmm.
clear and present audience that loves his stuff.
Hmm.
And I like I said, I don't like it, but when I heard him say that, I was like, man, I rock with that. And it made me really think that like I need to make sure that I am finding my audience,
Hmm.
the people
Yeah.
that really like my stuff or whatnot.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Mm, mm,
This
mm,
is
mm.
looking good, man. I like it.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
You sent me a lot of reference images with just raw power.
Hmm.
So I was like, man, let me see what this kid looks like when he's powering up. And he says, I'm about to shut you the hell up right now, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing that, and let me go back to like one of the earlier comments that I made is I don't want to say that there weren't any characters of color at the big two.
Hmm.
You definitely had, very good examples um, from DC with like people like John Stewart, Vixen, Mr. Terrific, and then like for Marvel, Storm, Black Panther, the Falcon, um, and I mentioned to you before Sync, from Generation X, who I didn't find out until like later, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't
Yeah.
enough for me. And the other thing was these characters were always either sidekicks or part of like group situations. They weren't the lead characters in the book, unless you count Storm, who was the leader of the Gold Team, and she
Hmm.
was in a leadership position. But you never had a like Storm series until many years later. So it was just like I got tired of us being secondary. I wanted to have like a lead character who was just as powerful. if not more powerful than some of the heroes and heroines that I grew up like reading. So when you see his power reflected in the book, I like myself and Sean Hill, the artist in the book, um, we were going to go hard or go home. Because like we like this is going to be something where it's not going to be like, well, he's I'm trying to think, he's underselling his abilities. Like, no, he's about to just try to get out of whatever situation he can with being as powerful as he can.
Hmm.
um so yeah, so that's I really appreciate that you kind of capturing that aspect of his abilities.
Thank you, thank you. Well, like I said, there were some pretty dope ass images of him, and I wanted to bring it. I didn't want to go calm on this one.
That's what's
I
up.
feel like there's a lot of things to rage about right now. So,
Well, I mean, I just got a message, and I don't know if I should say it, because it's political oriented, but Georgia's about to go blue, hopefully. So I'll just say that.
mhm,
And as a person who I'm originally from Chicago, like like I mentioned before, and that state is always Illinois has always been blue. And not saying that Illinois doesn't have its own kind of country, types of kind of spots or whatever, but the city has always kind of skewed Democratic. So when I moved to Georgia and I became, I was able to vote, it was always a little frustrating that there was never any balance, when it came
mhm,
to the politics. So it's amazing to me that it's this close to becoming a blue state, at least when it comes to the presidential election. So
uh,
that's been very weird to see, because I think this state's been red since like Bill Clinton. Since
mm,
Clinton's yeah, so so somebody just sent me like a message because they know I'm in Georgia. And I was like, oh man, I might want to stay my black behind in the house tonight.
right. That's how serious it gets.
Yeah, yeah. But that's my little political
Thank
diatribe.
you.
I'm
Are
sorry.
these all for me? Or are we sharing these? My daughter and I love the white Kit Kats.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, we
That's
put
what's
them
up.
in the refrigerator. She just brought me a bag and informed me we're sharing these.
Aw, so sweet.
Yeah, my
What's up, Jay? Jay man said he's Shot Town too. I'm Southside,
Oh, what's
Morgan
up,
Park.
J-Man? J-Man said
Yeah.
there's a ton of gripes from comic book readers about the big two, DC and Marvel. I'm an active reader and collector the last 10 to 15 years. I've noticed with the big two that old legendary stories being rehashed, retold differently, and ends up being, hello, pure garbage. And they have way too many big event stories that fall flat mid or in ending. My question is, do you think they both need to rethink business strategies? And if it was up to either of you, what would you change?
Um. So the one of the things that one of the things that I one okay, so one of the things that we talked about this earlier is that they gotta look for new voices. And I mean, like, new voices when it comes to storytelling, and that's
Mm-hmm,
just, you can't stay stagnant with the talent that you have. And I'm not saying like it needs to be like clean house or anything like that, but even if it's like for like one shots or backup stories, not even like a huge, like needing to tell like a huge multi-part story, those those require new voices also. So
mm-hmm,
that's one thing, and that needs to extend even as far as editorial, because editorial is where a lot of these decisions are made about the stories that we're reading, and
mm-hmm,
even as far as the corporate structure. So there needs to be a lot of fresh new voices brought, when it comes to the larger companies, because I always say, like, when it comes to like change in Hollywood, you want just as much as change in back of the camera as in front of the camera.
yeah,
So that's another part of that. And as far as you know, that's a business strategy that I feel could be changed or updated. But the other thing, as far as the maybe the stories, I kind of like what DC. I like what DC is doing with the future state, and there was even an article going around, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not, that there might be an opportunity to tell DC stories in like different continuities or different kind of branches where we won't have like a main continuity. But to
Mhm.
be honest with you, when it comes to like larger publishers, what is a regular continuity? Because there's a reboot every so many years. So I think that doing something like that would be a way to bring in newer readers. I think there is definitely a disconnect when it comes to people enjoying these movies in droves and paying billions of dollars to go see it. But I don't know if that necessarily translates to bringing people into comic books. So there has to be like a way to bring newer readers into the mix. So that's another thing I would, outside looking in. That's one thing I would look at. A couple of things.
Awesome. Um, I think they need to stop doing so many big events like every damn summer or every spring.
Mhm.
Um, like let's build up to the event. One of the things I would like them to do is stop switching up the damn creative team. If you got a number one issue and you put the big names on the number one issue all the way up to like the number three issue to get people to pull in, keep that team there. I miss the days of Adam Kubert and Oliver Coipel and
Mhm.
Mark Bagley and oh, who's my other boy? Oliver Coipel. Stuart. Eminem, yeah,
Eminem, yeah.
where they would stay on a book 18, 20, 22 issues,
Mhm.
before they switch off to something else.
Yeah.
I don't think they give the creative teams enough time to like really sit and stew with the characters, which is why one of the reasons that FSK we are, and I don't know if anybody else said it, so I'm saying that this is our phrase. I'm coining it. We do the casual crossover.
Mhm.
Because our characters all exist in the same universe, same state, same country, things like that. So you are going to randomly see characters pop up. I.e., example, Hotshot in issue 10 has a big situation that he's trying to take care of, but at the end result of it, some members of Heroes International comes in the next issue,
Mhm.
and they're just there because, well, they're Heroes International. They're the premier superhero team in the world. They may not have made it in time to help said hotshot or whatever, but they're still there because they're helping with the cleanup, they're helping with the injured, the hurt, and things like that. Or one of our new characters, Alyssa in Tajishi Gates, she's going to be in Vigilance #4. She's making her first appearance there before she makes her number one issue debut or whatnot. But these characters just mingle. We just have them existing and popping up one book or not. But then in issue 21 of Hotshot, that's when we're starting our big crossover. That's going to be a FSK wide event that's going to affect the entirety of the whole world, where all our heroes have to get together to unite.
Nice.
But like I said, that's not till issue 21 though of
Mhm.
Hotshot. We're on issue 10. Like,
Mhm.
give some things some time to marinate. Like, one of the things I hate about TV shows nowadays is we don't get the rest episode. We don't get the baseball episode where they just chill and hang out, and it's just some fun theatrics between these characters, and we get to know them. It's just problem, issue, dire, save, like boom, 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 and that's how it is in the comic books. Now, not all comic books, but I think in the big two or whatnot. But like you, I'm also very excited about Future State.
Mhm.
I think those designs look
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
for those characters. I can't wait to check it out. But one book that I always thought was damn near perfect, Invincible, man.
Um,
Invincible for Image Comics.
if I could stand up and get like my three massive hardcovers of that, I would. I just recently like Invincible, as you were, So when I think of FSK, I think of also other publishers like Wingless Comics and 133 Art and what they're doing with One Nation.
Mm.
Um, those are I love what y'all are doing with like superhero stories. I was going to say superheroics, but Invincible was a really good example of how you can tell a one and done. Now, one and done over like 100+ issues,
Oh yeah,
series.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
But there was a sense of finality at that last issue where I felt like I was good.
Yes.
I was way good. And for me, I had collected the hardcovers up until like the sixth kind of like massive one that they had. And for a few years, I hadn't read Invincible. So recently, I got the soft cover omnibuses, and there are only three of them. So I just and I plowed through them, and I felt like so satisfied with the story that had been told. Like it wasn't like I sat back and I was like, well, I wish they would do 200 more issues. I'm like, no, the mark of a good creator is to get in, tell your story, and get out. That's
Hmm.
and that's what I loved about Invincible. Um, so yeah, but it's one of the that's one of my like favorite superhero stories of all time, and strangely enough, one that it's becoming a really good, like just as good as anything the Marvel and DC are doing. What Boom Studios is doing with Power Rangers, like
Hmm.
Power Rangers is becoming like just as super heroic as any Marvel book that I've read in a minute. Like, I used to rock with Power Rangers back when I was like way back when, but that was never my fandom. But when I started reading the comic books, it's just like, wow, I could. This is epic storytelling. So,
Oh, I 150 million% agree. Invincible
mhm,
is my crack.
yeah,
Um, I carry around the last issue when I'm carrying around my iPad and art stuff. I carry around the last issue with me, so I
mhm,
can pop that open and flip
that's
through
what's
it
up.
before I start drawing.
Nice.
The Power Ranger stuff is really cool. I've
Mhm,
it like hearing about it and reading articles about it. It's made me go back into the Power Rangers books.
mhm.
I got 4 kids, so I can't be buying all those books, but I listen to them on YouTube.
Yeah,
There's a guy who reads the stories back to you in really cool voices. And so I listen to him on there and I'm like, man, if this was the actual episode, like
man.
if this was the actual TV series,
Yeah,
man, it'd be complete fire. But
yeah.
I think the concept of Power Rangers overall, just because it's a dope concept,
Hmm.
even though the way I mean, they really marketed it to kids, but
Yeah.
it's strong enough to stand on its own and give this kind of creativity.
Hmm.
Um, Brad, I'm sorry, that's way too long. But understand I'm almost finished with issue 10 and I'm diving right into issue 11. Don't worry, we have a lot of content that's going to be dropping in 2021. So be ready for that. And it may be a while before we get to that 21st issue, but when we get there, I believe all the high notes are going to hit the way they're supposed to hit. So like, and that was part of our thing, Danny and I talking about how we're writing this and how we're putting things together and how we connecting the dots. We want all the books to have a buy-in in this crossover event. It's not just I don't want to just do a crossover for the simple sake of doing a crossover.
Hmm.
I want this to be my dark side moment. I want this to be
Nice.
our Marvel onslaught moment, our Age of Apocalypse. Like this is total devastation that we are going to bring to these teams, and each one of their parts in each one of these books is going to be their adventure in it, as these heroes are trying to defend this from what's coming.
That's what's up. I love
Yeah.
it. Love it. So one of the things, so I saw in the comments, Legend said, "Y'all are about to make me go to the bookcase." That's all I'm gonna say, because I got I got that hardcover that he mentioned about Shattered Grid, and then we were talking about Invincible. Like I think my wife was seeing me carry around these big books, and when I finished all three of the Invincible, she was like, "I thought you was just reading one." I was like, "No, it's three. It's three of them." But yeah, and it was weird because Power Rangers was never. You know what actually got me into the Power Ranger comic books? Power Rangers Pink, and
Mhm.
when I read that, and they were just telling a self-contained story for Kimberly going to Paris and dealing with not Paris or someplace in France and dealing with a town that had been overrun by like the bad guys from that universe, and it was drawn well and the story was written well. I was just like, wow. And I hadn't expected. It was just a really action packed and well drawn story. And whoever hires their artist over at Boom Studios specifically for Power Rangers, I want to I hand clap because the
Yeah.
pages are beautiful. Like but yeah, but growing up, like Power Rangers was always kind of a little kiddie, a little goofy, but it was still fun. But you just thought like this has the makings of being a very awesome superhero universe and interconnected, like Power Rangers verse. So I think that the comic books have done that really, really well.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it, man. Like that Ninja Turtle Power Ranger crossover they did, like that was
Yeah,
dope. Like they're
yeah,
just doing a lot of cool things. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also excited that they're not going to do the recycled shooting anymore from across the way. It's all going to be original content now with the Power Rangers, and they're trying to make it more serious.
that's what's up. Yeah, because I know and then this turned into Power Rangers hour. The last thing I can from I remember, Brian Edward Hill, who's worked for DC Comics, I think he's done Marvel work.
Mhm.
He's a screenwriter. He was hired to write the most recent reboot of this for Power Rangers for a movie.
Oh
So
snap!
yeah, so it's just like I'm sorry, a black man writing a Power Rangers script for a big budget movie. I'm there. I'm so
Yeah,
happy. But yeah, but Brian Edward Hill is very talented. He's a talented dude, very very talented dude. So
yeah, man. I have that issue sometimes. Thank you, Danny J. Quick, man. I appreciate it. I'm trying to bring the noise with it, man. I want to pay respect to everybody's characters when they come onto the show.
thank you,
But I
man.
appreciate that.
Great.
Um, like for this new project I'm working on, I happen to be working on it with Moana McAdams and Lori
Yeah.
Foster.
Hmm.
Um, I was I've done it before on my Facebook page, and I can post wherever the hell I want on my page, but I just didn't feel like hearing anything or having to try to explain myself or whatnot, because I wanted a female writer of color, and I don't know that many of them.
Hmm.
So when I wanted to put out a call, just like looking for them, especially somebody like I can build a relationship with or whatnot, to write this book because I feel like it's needed. Like I like I got 3 girls and I'm married.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about women. Right? When it comes to the inner turmoil of what a woman goes through every single day, living and breathing in a woman's skin, and
Hmm.
how that is.
Yeah.
And then it's a woman of color. I want to make sure we're hitting on those notes, but still getting a good writer. And I'm not saying a man can't write this, but there
Hmm.
are just certain avenues and notes that a man will not be able to hit or understand. Or they may be able to understand it, but they can't explain it a certain way. And
Hmm.
and my key example for this is excellence, which is put together by a black creative team, pretty much,
Hmm.
with the writer and the artist. And the section that made me fall in love with it was when my man got a lineup from his grandmother.
From his grandma, first issue.
Yeah, that
First
was
issue.
just so
Yep.
dope. But it's not even that part. That was the
Yeah.
setup. The
Hmm.
punchline was on the next page when he walked in the
Hmm.
building, and his boy was like, "Boy, they wasn't playing around with that lineup." I was, and that
Yeah.
that that hits,
Hmm.
like, because I get lineups, I get fades, I go
Yeah.
get my haircut. I've had
Yeah.
my haircut by a family member and had that that real talk with them while we're sitting down there talking, or I've had that conversation with my
Hmm.
grandfather about what am I going to do, things I have going on, and stuff like that. So that all connect with me, and I want those kind of moments in the story that we're doing now, but with females. And
Yeah.
I thought Moana would be too busy, but when I pitched the idea to her, she was like, "Let's go." And
Awesome. That's what's up.
and we already had Lori. I already had Lori Foster involved because we've been wanting to work on a project together too. And I call her New Life. She inks the hell out of my pencils and made me. I was like, "Woo, girl, you've been blessed with that ink pad." J-Man
That's
says,
what's
Michael, really
up.
digging the facial reaction on this drawing. Thank you. Danny, same for me. Same for Teenage Ninja Turtles. For me, it was Kitty, but had so much potential. I absolutely agree. Greg is in the building.
He
He'll
said
need to make.
make all of them black. He about to have was it riots at the Morphin Con, right?
Right.
Nah, I would yeah, but well, I mean that goes back to what we were talking about. You bring in the industry cannot thrive on the same group of people doing these books. You can't.
Yeah.
There are too many creators from different walks of life, different races, different sexual orientations, different um, sexes, different just whatever, and talented people. And that's the thing that always kind of gets me is that um, these folks are always just passed up, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like,
Hmm.
Greg's in the chat. I would love to see like he's been pushing for Brother Voodoo for a minute. I would love to see that, but if they're not going to bring him on for Brother Voodoo, I love seeing his work on The Gentleman
Hmm.
or is Nana, the Were Spider, or Marasa. That, I mean, their loss is our gain,
Right.
when it comes to stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, just as, and a lot of people, I mean, real talk, aren't cognizant of the fact that, maybe you need a different voice in the room, to tell some of these stories. So, I'm there for it. I think there was another publisher, um, Ed Williams, Ed Williams, and I'm forgetting the name of the publisher, but he, for BlackSci-Fi.com, we did an interview with him because he put out a call on Twitter, looking for Black women writers for a book that they had coming up, and and guess what? A lot of them, he got a lot of applications or resumes. I mean, you know, people need to stop acting like we don't exist
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to telling these stories. And I think as you see more things like Lovecraft Country, Watchmen, Cannon Busters, um, just a bunch of bunch of stuff that I'm probably forgetting. They have no choice but to see that we can tell these stories just as well as anybody else, if not better, at some points. So, um, but yeah, but that was one of my drives to get into comics and also just to just to tell good stories. I mean, just to have fun. I mean, have fun doing what I love doing. I love to write. I still do prose. I still do the journalism, but comic books seems to be where I keep coming back to. So but yeah.
All right, again, if you guys are enjoying this conversation and it's just tickling your hearts and your geekdom, you should go support Robert and go buy his book. I just put the links down there in the comments. Go over there and go check him out. He's got Route 3. This is our man right here. Route 3, 1 through 3, out and available right now. That's who we're drawing. And then we're just up here talking shop, man, having a pretty damn good conversation today about these things. I think that's like, and I watched Lovecraft, and I
Hmm.
participated or I posted, and Greg actually saw one of my posts where I was like, so that's where we're at right now. Bad writing entails involving too many other genders and, and other people. Like that's what's bad writing for you, because I was like, I can't remember his name. Tick's dad though. That
Hmm.
man did some incredible acting that in
Hmm.
that show. Like I mean, I'm not going to shortchange any of the actors though.
Hmm.
They all did well. Letty was amazing. She was my favorite character. Tick, the emotion and weight that he carried throughout that show, and like his sense of urgency and wanting to help people, so believable. But
Hmm.
Tick's dad, though, the mess that he had to deal with and balance and go back and forth with, and that scene where he takes off his shirt, he's like, "But I'm still your daddy." Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Well, I mean because I'm not familiar with Lovecraft, the creator, but I'm and also not familiar with the book. But I know about was it Cthulhu.
Hmm.
I have friends who are big horror heads, and they love them some Lovecraft. And so when they started showing trailers for, first of all, when it was like Misha Green from Underground, Jordan Peele, and J.J. Abrams again together to do this series that Misha Green is show running, I was like, okay, let's check it out. And then the trailer popped up, and I was just like, they got me like day one,
Hmm.
and then just there's the first episode when they're escaping the sundown town, um, that that was the scariest moment, for me.
Hmm.
The scariest moment was not the monsters jumping out of the ground, and chasing Letty as she raced to the car. That I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of fictional. That's fake. That's a but in real life, there are, and they still exist. There are those towns where if you are black or if you are anything but white or hetero, you can't be in that town after a certain time. You just
Yeah.
can't. And I remember hearing people go online, saying like they had never heard of that, but we know about Sundown Town. We there. I mean, real talk. There are even parts of Chicago that my mom would tell stories about having being chased, chased to her side of town by white kids. Same thing with my dad up in New York. My dad used to tell me straight up, like I had to fight to go to Catholic school, I had to fight to come back. It's just that it's that type of, but that was a true horror in that series, and but the monsters were secondary, to me. I mean, I at least in that first issue, in the first episode, but no, I loved it. I hope HBO keeps tapping into these types of stories. But between this and Watchmen, I think they're off to a good start. Um,
Danger
but
Quick
yeah.
said, "Oh, by the way, I also agree with you. Danger, are
Mhm,
y'all watching Star Trek Discovery? I thought I saw Rob's post about it. I have
mhm.
not watched Star Trek Discovery because I'm not paying for another streaming service. But
I'm a
that's
yeah,
just
so, yeah.
I,
For me, I'm a Trekkie. You can see. Let me move my head. I got like a blueprint of the Enterprise behind me. I keep
mhm.
pointing to the wrong area. So, anyways, but Star Trek has always been one of the fandoms that I love and that I wish I could contribute to. But for specifically with Burnham, I like her. I love it. I'm enjoying Discovery. I'm enjoying this new round of Trek. You
So
know,
where does this fit in the Star Trek world?
so I'm not, because I don't want to ruin anything about season 2 or 3, but season 1 falls. It's it's a few decades before the original series, the
Really?
TOS. Yeah. So yeah, so they are one of the things that Trek sometimes does get complicated in is the canon, because I think that this whole thing of going back and back and back further to kind of tell the story of the origins of the Federation or the early days of the Federation, even going back to Scott Bakula with Enterprise. Um, you sometimes things get a little convoluted, but for me, Discovery um, was there hadn't been Trek on TV since Enterprise on the
Hmm.
CW or UPN, and that was back in what 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
And so we've had the J.J. Abrams movies, and then the Justin Lin movie, which I think brought in some new fans. But Trek, I think Trek's place has always been on TV,
You
and
think
now,
so?
yeah, and that's all. That's what I've always felt that. Um, but specifically with Burnham, there's a moment in the second season, Danny, where with her and her mother, where I had never seen that in Trek before. Two strong black women who are scientists collaborating on trying to essentially save the world, and
Mm,
that was beautiful. And it wasn't just a moment for the sake of, well, let's just have this so we can have representation. It fit well within the story that was being told. And I'm one of those Trek fans that acknowledge that um, you have to you got to do something to bring new audiences in. You
mhm.
can't keep telling the same old story. You can't keep telling, the same style of stories. So it has to be something,
Ooh,
because otherwise the franchise is going to die.
Rob, get
Uh,
out, stay out my inbox, Robert. Stay out my inbox. Uh, Victor and I was just talking about that.
he said, "Stay out your inbox."
Stay out my inbox. Vicky
Yeah.
came over to my house to pick up some stuff, and I was like, "Hey man, did you see the new Spider-Man game trailer that
Hmm.
has the new suit in it?" He's
Yeah.
like, "Nah." I was like, "Look, pay attention, man. This ain't just the Enter the Spider-Verse skin.
Hmm.
They animated it and made it just like how it looks in
Yes.
the movie,
Yes.
how it moves and
Yep.
functions. They dropped the frame rate and
Hmm.
everything. This is
Yep.
this is literally that character model
Hmm.
put in the game." And
Yep.
like Vic was just blown away. Like that's not just a
Hmm.
skin, man.
Yep.
Um, and we were just saying, like, dude, I love Peter Parker. Dude,
Hmm.
I love Peter Parker. He's web slinging around my
Yep.
ceiling, man.
Yep.
27 Spider-Man figures around my ceiling. I love him. But his time is come and gone in the comic books, man.
Yeah.
And to the main, like, I still need him. He's still like where he's at in the movies is perfect because he's a
Hmm.
teenager. I love that. Not bothered by that at all. But as far as comic books and this video games and all this other stuff, it's Miles' time.
Yeah.
Miles is a damn good Spider-Man. Like
Hmm.
he is a dope character. And I was as I was drawing yesterday, trying to get this book finished. I was listening to him read a Miles Morales story, a
Hmm.
two-parter. That was excellent. I'm just like, ooh. Like he is this generation Spider-Man. I mean, if people can
Yeah.
fight me if they want on it, but my son's name is Miles
Hmm.
Parker Watson.
That's what's up. Yeah, I mean, there's you can't you can't not introduce new characters into these universes. You can't have a franchise just stay stagnant and telling the same stories, for going into the future. So, and also CBS wants to make money. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. Now, the streaming service, and then that I understand that argument, but I'm being honest with you. I would be very fearful about trying to put a genre-heavy sci-fi show on CBS. And that's just me because CBS has always just been the network of Walker, Texas Ranger, um, Murder She Wrote, the Big Bang Theory, and then like 500 CSI shows. So I know that Evil is a new show. It's a more genre kind of horror supernatural show that's on there now. But before that, any genre show that I remember from CBS wasn't I can't remember, any type of sci-fi show like lasting on CBS, and that's who
Mhm.
owns the rights to that. So, and I think that they were showing season one on CBS, as like kind of reruns because with COVID, they don't have a lot of new material. But I would be concerned if they tried to put Star Trek on CBS and nobody watched it, and then the franchise dies again.
Mhm.
So I'm very kind of nervous when it comes to network TV and sci-fi, fantasy, horror, because they usually only get a couple of seasons, unless it's like something like the CW network. Because CW network will, they'll support superheroes all day, or they'll let Supernatural last for like 1,500 years. Or
Right.
so, but yeah, the CW, as far as I'm concerned, has been the only network that has looked at genre TV and been like, okay, let's take a chance and let's keep it going past, one season or two seasons. So right now, I'm sorry, I'm happy. I just keep Star Trek on the streaming network for me.
Yeah,
So
I gotta double check it, but I think somebody said something about if you have Amazon Prime, you have access to see all that CBS.
okay,
So I'm gonna check that out because I do want to watch it. Like
yeah,
my only gripe with it is that I'm tired of them going back to the past, and you mentioned that already too, because that
right.
show looks dope and it don't look
Mhm.
like it's in the past. That
I don't want to spoil nothing. Like I really don't. I don't want to spoil nothing. But I understand what you're saying. And then Picard is actually set in their present time. So like I think it's like post Star Trek Nemesis. So it's
mm,
like a few years after that. So yeah,
and
I
that's my
just
boy right there. So I do want to watch it. It's
mhm,
just we got Disney Plus, we got Netflix, we got
yep.
Hulu, we got Funimation.
Hmm.
Um, and once Disney Plus and HBO Max, I was like, that's it, man. I can't do no more.
You can't do anymore.
Can't do no more because now this is getting I think it's getting as big as a cable bill, and that was the whole point.
Yep. Yeah, I think we want to try at least Shutter over here because my wife is a big horror fan.
Mine's
We'll
is
try that
too,
out.
man, and I'm a
Yeah.
bitch, and she be always trying to watch that stuff.
Yeah, but Shutter is another one that we're looking at. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I always say it's a beautiful time to be a geek, because between indies, between mainstream, TV, video games, books, just it's a lot of different stuff, and it's at least it's a variety of things, that you can check out, and if you don't like it, you can check something else out.
Hmm.
That's always my pitch. Like if somebody ever comes to like a table, back in the days when we used to do conventions,
Back in the
like
day.
back in the old days, I like having a variety of different work, for people to check out. So if they're not necessarily like a Route 3 head, like with the Superheroics, I'm like, hey, do you like horror? And then I'm like, okay, well here's Mine to Avenge, or do you like post-apocalyptic like world war set stories? It was like, here's Radio Free America. I think that having that variety of different work as a creator kind of helps you, with selling, but then also as a fan, you're just kind of giving them a little bit of um little bit of different, everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's I yeah, I when people say that there's nothing on TV to watch, I'm like, hey, okay. So
Um, so here's my thing. I'm wondering why we haven't talked more. Me and you are like on the same page on a lot of things right now. And I'm like, why haven't I talked to this guy more? Legend says, "What's up, Doomsmith man? How you doing?" Legend says
so
they also released DVDs about Discovery and short
mhm,
treks for my dad's birthday. Drew,
that's what's up.
I I understand that, and I would love to do that. I got 4 kids, so I don't get to buy every DVD that I want to get, but and I'm cheap too, man. I'm cheap. Like I've just started my Marvel Legends collection again, and these
Mm,
toy prices are ridiculous. But
wow.
I went hunting for toys $20 and under. I didn't care about packaging. Your box could be messed up. It could be a loose figure. It didn't have to have the accessories. I don't need the extra heads. I just want the figure. So I'm cheap. Uh, Robert Nix, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And Gerald says, Robert, what are your thoughts on the rumored Cisco show?
I mean, if they can get Avery Brooks to come back to Trek, yeah. I he is my favorite captain. I'm sorry, like
Cisco?
yeah, Cisco. I
Oh,
know
wait,
that.
I got my captains mixed up. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Cisco, not the platinum haired guy who used to pop cartwheels on beaches. The Cisco, and shout out to Cisco. I'm sorry to the singer. I think if Avery Brooks wanted to come back, I think it could work because after seeing Picard, how they handle the whole idea of like Federation, um, post Federation captains, I think that would be cool. With the way that Deep Space Nine ends, though, I'm wondering how they would do that. Strange, funny story though is if you read the novels, he comes back in the novels. So he's actually, I'm sorry, spoiler for Deep Space Nine, but he is not. Cisco is no longer one with the prophets. He is actually living on Bajor with his wife and his daughter. So if they, I don't know, wanted to maybe pull something from the novels or tell an original story about how he comes back to our world, I think that would be pretty cool to watch. And I think it would be a really good opportunity to just kind of see how that part of the universe is actually doing. The
Mhm.
with the Cardassians, with the Bajorans, with the I'm having a brain for the main bad guys for the last few seasons.
Uh, uh,
The Dominion,
yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
the Dominion. So there's a lot of story I think that you can still tell. And then if you saw that documentary, the D Space Nine documentary, they had a writers' room where they came up with a pilot episode of a season. Was that season 8? So yeah, season 8. So you could bring back the writers from who put that together, and even bring in newer writers and just kind of build from there. But I just got a feeling that Avery Brooks is just tired. Like he was just done with the franchise, and I can't blame him. I mean, I can understand. I mean, I think people kind of get burnt out, after a
Yeah,
while. So
yeah, it's funny because your boy Arrow, he quit the show.
yeah, hmm
He had his last run on it or whatnot. He's been out for a couple months, and he went on the show saying, if they need me to come back, I will. Because of everything going on with COVID and they can't get actors up to the set and stuff like that. Well, he's where they're at shooting. And he's like,
okay.
well, if you guys need me to come back, I'll do it. Let's figure out how to write them back from the dead. So
How was that going to happen? Yeah, that
yeah,
was okay. I guess I'll watch for that. I mean, I'm a big Arrowverse fan, so
mhm.
that that seemed to be my gateway into DC for like a while, because when I remember when that first episode came out for Arrow, I was just like, I got burned out of Smallville, and I was like, maybe it'll just be another Smallville, and then he's just like straight murking people in the first episode. I was like, oh god, this is not the Ollie that I know of, making jokes and stuff. But yeah, I just hope that because I know that they announced the end of Supergirl, and um, I just don't want all of those shows to kind of just. I don't want them to shut down that universe because I feel
Yeah.
that there's some more stories that they can tell.
I don't think they're going to shut that down. I don't think they're going to shut down that world or anything like that. But here's a question for you: the Arrowverse.
Mm,
What's the greatest enemy out of all the Arrowverse shows?
um,
I'm gonna tell you right now, Robert. You're not gonna say the correct answer.
Yeah, it's oh man. The greatest one for me. You know what? Actually, no. Slade. Slade for me was when Slade popped up in that season. It was either second or third season. Um, his stuff was like, what do you say, Machiavellian.
Hmm.
Like he. I was impressed. Like I was beyond impressed with how Manu. What's his name? Manu Bennett played
Yeah.
that role and just kind of killed it. And I'm also kind of partial to Damien Dark. Because Damien Dark, I know like him and Arrow was kind of weird because it was like magic versus like Batman or whatever.
Hmm.
But I like him. His threat level to me has always been pretty impressive, especially on like something like Legends of Tomorrow. Um, but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are
So
the two that stand out. And I see Danny said Reverse Flash. I definitely understand. But there was something just about Deathstroke, him kind of running through Oliver and his people like he did was just crazy. It was crazy impressive to me.
yeah.
What
So
what's
I
your
knew
answer?
you guys were gonna say everything but the actual correct answer. The greatest enemy in the Arrowverse
Hmm.
is the cell phone.
Okay.
Every time something important, critical, or needed to have a conversation, a
Hmm.
cell phone would ring and then the conversation would get dropped. Who
Wow.
answers the phone when they're about to tell the chick they love their secret identity? Who does that? Every character in the Arrowverse.
It might just be it might be like something in their contracts. If you join the Arrowverse, you have to do a scene like this. Um, Now I'm going to go back and watch, or even going forward. Has that happened in Black Lightning though?
I only watched a few episodes of that, so I couldn't tell you, but I'm
Oh
guaranteeing you
no.
it did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd bet $1.
Yeah. Well, they filmed that down here in Georgia. So that's a local show that we try to support. That isn't named The Walking Dead, which films all around Georgia apparently. Um, but yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm glad that after Crisis, Black Lightning is now a part of the official Arrowverse, and all that. So,
Yeah,
um,
they get on my nerves doing that. Just make it part of the show. Like
well,
I,
they should
I
have,
know there's some
yeah.
backroom thing about that, how they try to build it up, make you
Hmm.
think it's not going to be a part of it. Then when they say we're going to start making it a part of it to get more viewers and
Hmm.
stuff, it's really just annoying. But I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should have done this since the first season, but it was, then I guess they tied it in with all of the multiple Earths or whatever. But yeah, yeah, I think the CW is like I says the only network station that I feel that takes a chance on shows like that. So um and I hope they keep doing it. So
Mhm.
see, this is beautiful, man. I'm looking at it. This is great.
Oh, thank you.
Nice, nice, nice.
I appreciate it. Like I said, one of my favorite parts about doing the show is sitting down here and geeking out with you guys, because it helps give me fuel for drawing these characters.
That's what's up. Um Doomsmith. I love Wayne Brady as Gravedigger. I loved Wayne Brady as Gravedigger. Because for me it was, I guess well maybe for a lot of people it might have been like an unexpected type of role, because he was a bad guy that you could kind of empathize with, or
Hmm.
not a bad guy. He was like an antagonist, but people were like, "Oh man, I can't believe he would play such a tough role." And I was like, "Y'all forget that skit from Dave Chappelle."
Yeah.
that so but I with him kind of being their universe's um first super soldier, I loved it. I could watch those montages of him just killing Nazis all day. That was great. So um but I thought he was pretty good, and I hope they decide to bring him back. Um because I think they could do with some really solid antagonists on that show.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, this is nice. Yeah, and shout out to this is really good to all the inkers in the industry, or just to all the artists. I mean, this is pretty awesome, to watch. I think the only other time that I've been able to watch, the inking is like when Sean for Route Three was when Sean did it.
Hmm.
He has videos on his YouTube channel where
Uh,
he's done a couple of pinups and some of the piano work. But yeah, he is a as far as Route Three. I always say like he's a large part for why this series pops the way that it does. Um, and he's my creative brother from another mother and all that good stuff. But
the dude is a beast. He's a
yeah, he
freaking
stayed
beast.
he stayed busy. We just he Sean and another writer named John McGuire. We're all co-creators on a series called The Crossing, and we
Hmm.
we we just got the first issue out to backers, who backed us on the Kickstarter. So that's the most recent work that I've done with Sean. But
Hmm.
when we move forward with Route Three, he is still the series artist. On the
Okay.
series, he's actually, I think he's kind of chomping at the bit to get a script. So
Uh,
I'm like, let me finish some of this client work, and then I'll get back and forth to Route Three because the other work is what's paying right now. It's just real talk.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, but this is yeah, but he's ready to get back on it, and I'm hyped to
Get him
have
back on.
him get back on it, get him back on it because the last issue definitely ends on a cliffhanger. That whole rule of leave him wanting more.
Hmm.
And one of the things though that I kind of I kind of regret is that when I did the DC workshop, I came out immediately thinking like, man, I'm gonna use this experience to get some work with some with large publishers and all that. Um, and I got more work on the Indian, which has been awesome. But it just kind of kept pushing Route Three back. So it's just like now is the time to kind of to get it back out there, especially with the way that the market is going. Where we're
Hmm.
seeing more stories that feature us, and I just want to wrap up this story, story arc. So, but yeah. So look forward to that, and I'm hoping
Thank you.
early 2021. So, yeah, yeah. But it's been a journey because I mean with Route Three in particular because this is what got me in the industry. Like
Hmm.
this is what got me in the industry, and I love it. I love it. So, I mean, I mean, as creators, we love our shit. I mean, we love it. This is always going to be like the one that I invest a kind of lot of, heart, you know, blood, sweat, tears, and all that stuff. Not on the actual pages. When you buy the actual book, none of that is on there. It
Hmm.
is here you go. I keep doing the preview of the book and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was it got me into the industry and that's what got me in front of DC Comics. So this is the book that I submitted to for with my application. Um, so somebody it was just like some people seem to like it,
Some people
but
seem to like it.
yeah, some people seem to like it now. But no, we've actually had a really I mean I you know at the different shows we used to do. Um, this is always like the number one selling book,
Mm.
no matter, and it's crazy because it's a collected, trade paperback, and normally people might sometimes, flock to doing like a single issue, trying to give like a single issue a shot, but they usually pick up the trade and come back and say that they really enjoyed it. So, um, and also I love giving Atlanta um, some huge shine time in the book because I think comics are always kind of relegated sometimes to, Chicago or New York City or some variation of that. So, having I call it my adopted um, city or my home city represented in something like this, I think is pretty cool. So it was pretty fun to do.
Yeah, I agree with you because I made Cleveland, Columbus the areas for mine. I just kind of got tired of all that stuff happening in New York. I just was like, if
Hmm.
all that was happening in New York, we wouldn't have New York. It'd be a grass thing, a wet spot because it'd just be
Yeah,
done.
yeah. It kind of makes me wonder about all the cities that like in Invincible.
Hmm.
Because they, the one thing, like if you've never read Invincible, first of all, it's not a that is not a series for kids. So everybody with kids in here who don't know about Invincible but have seen that trailer, do not show that show to your kids. Because I will say like between that and The Walking Dead, I always thought that does Robert Kirkman have a thing for like extreme violence? but
Hmm.
I've heard him in interviews, at least when it comes to the Invincible, he will say that um, he wanted to show the effects of what would really happen when Superman punched a normal person. Um, and I think it works, but I think when that cartoon comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be more. They're going to be shocked because that violence is more on par with the boys than it is with
Anything else?
anything else. Yeah, anything else from Marvel. Um, so yeah, so that was actually a. There was a point where I couldn't read Garth Ennis anymore because I got tired of the violence. Like I was just like, I can't do this, man.
Yeah, I had people say that about Invincible, and I was like, I don't know, I could rock with it. I felt
Yeah,
like it wasn't just there to be there. I'm like, it was embedded in the show. What's
yeah.
up, man? How you doing?
Hey,
Thank you,
Malachi,
Katie.
what's going on? Yeah, but yeah, but I think that that cartoon is going to hit hard. I mean, especially for Amazon.
Hmm.
Like if they can get, that could be like 7 seasons or
Oh, it's
more.
got to be 7 seasons at
Yeah,
least. It has to
like
be.
yeah, like when I saw when it, I was more impressed with how large that story went, and that was very impressive. Um, and emotions and just all that. I was just like, wow, man, this is gonna be something special if they can adapt it in the
Hmm.
best in the right way. So I think that I think that a lot of people are going to be impressed. I think was it Hector Navarro from DC? He does a lot of stuff on um, I think with Nerdist, but he described it as Game of Thrones meets like a superhero Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, I know they've got to do that for the people that have not read the book. Yeah, I was like, you ain't got to pump me up no more. Just let's launch this show. All right, come
Oh
on.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Like when
like
I
I found it funny that the people were talking online about it, and they're like, "Oh man, give us Battle Cat, give us Battle Cat, give us this and give us that." I'm
yeah,
like, man, obviously you guys are fans of the show, all right? I mean,
hmm
of the comic book. You know you're gonna get Battle Cat.
yeah,
Stop asking, man. This like this whole series is done.
yeah,
Like we know what we're getting in the book. Just let them make the animated series
hmm
and watch it. And like, if you think you're gonna get anything, like the book, like if you look at the book, you can kind of tell where the season finale will be for each season.
hmm Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Ah, I love it so much. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking read it when I get off of here. Shoot.
Yeah. With the and the whole thing with Monster Girl and and I'll just say robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. See, that was the type of stuff that was kind of because you took the focus off of Invincible and now you're telling this separate story. And I was just like, when they do a TV show, once again, this could be its own separate series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I mean, if they decided to do that, but I will say this, like if that animated series hits as hard as I think it will, then get ready for spinoffs. Because that's I know he did that with the comic books
Mm-hmm.
with the different groups, different characters. So I'm yeah, like I said, this can turn into like an invincible love fest, that.
Oh
So
yeah. I'm gonna
but
warn
yeah,
all my friends. This is not a show for you to show your kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless your kids have been watching Walking Dead, which mine's have. So, uh,
So then they
guilty.
might be all right. Yeah,
Yeah. I have to talk with them or whatnot, and then you know, I
hmm
I, I just love geekdom.
yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of it to love. I mean, and it's not just confined to just one specific medium. You know, I got stacks of books here. I got stacks of comics here. I got some video games that I need to get through. Shout out to Squad Z. We a few of us, we run through World War Z every
Okay.
night. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's because it's one of the few cross-platform games that you can
Mm-hmm.
play, and they're all on PC. I'm on Xbox, but we can still talk through Discord, but and actually play the game. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. There's whatever your geekdom is. I mean, even stuff like sports. Like I think that you have to have something to follow or to like, to kind of get you through, day one and day two, just or day three, and especially now with COVID, everything just seems to be running together. You have to have that kind of release or that escape,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether it's as a fan or as a creator. Because I think that even when we're doing comic books, it's a way for us to kind of disconnect, but also just have fun, creating these worlds, these different you know stories, that hopefully other people will enjoy. But there's something kind of selfish in that. We're kind of our first audience, when you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. So um and that's I mean that's helped me out, in addition to playing Streets of Rage, every other Streets of Rage 4, um, every chance that I can get, trying to get all the achievements and all that. But shout out to Nerd Soul, like, but he does a lot of Streets of Rage gaming. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I saw.
yeah, nice man. This is awesome. This is
Thank you.
beautiful, man. Yeah,
Scott, like I can't deny that I've drawn a lot of fun characters on this show.
yeah,
Um,
same. Yeah,
like it's always like it's like this is like a math solution for me, and I got to figure out how to do it. Got to figure out how to solve the problem of drawing the character and
that's
trying
what's
to
up.
make them look epic
Yeah.
while on the show.
No, this is capturing that perfectly. I mean, like, that's what's up. Like and the funny thing is in the story, the Sean starts out so timid,
Hmm.
but by the end of that, he's wilding out. He's just like, I'm tired of guns being held in my face. It's like, I'm done.
Hmm.
I'm done, son. Like, this is, guns being pulled on him is not a normal Wednesday. It's
Hmm.
just like, and when that happens, he was like, I can either be scared about it or I can use what I got to just start smacking people upside the head. And that's one of the reasons why I like writing him. Like he's just a cool character. Cool character. Um, nice. I'm looking at the detail. Danny, I saw your. I'm sorry, I see your question. Yeah, Lower Decks was Star Trek. Lower Decks was really good. I was amazed at how much I enjoyed it. Um, but as far as Invincible, yeah, that's a it, I I don't know. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to kind of outpace. I think the Lower Decks, because I think Lower Decks at its heart. I mean, and they're two different shows.
Hmm.
That's another thing. But I think on the sci-fi comedy side of things, I think Lower Decks has kind of supplanted itself pretty well, and um, it's just another example, I think, of the Star Trek franchise kind of feeling itself a bit, where they're like, let's try a Rick and Morty style comedy about Star Trek. I mean, it's not as crazy, not as crazy as Rick and Morty,
Right.
but it was really good. I mean, I
It does
enjoyed
look
it a
good.
lot.
Like
Yeah,
again, they got stuff that I want to watch, man. It's just I can't be doing another streaming platform.
yeah, that's what's up, man. Man, So you probably have people who just come on the show and be like, "This shit looks nice," and it's just like long, just like people just watching. This is pretty cool. So one of the things that I'll get, and I know other comic book writers can empathize, is that you'll have people who sometimes don't realize that you can use the internet to like research a person or at least
Mhm.
look up stuff, and then they'll be like, "Man, I love Route 3. I loved how you did the artwork, and man, you on page one, you killed it. Like you just." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I can. The best I can do is stick figures. I don't like I can't draw worth crap." Like, but I can refer you to Sean Hill, who drew it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just, so for me, it's just like I always got an appreciation for this stuff. Like when I'm just trying to think the other series, Mind to Avenge. Um, Matteo and Loris are two Italian guys, and I think this is their first time drawing people of color
Mhm.
or coloring or doing colors on people of color. And they're like, if I'm wrong, then they'll correct me. But um, I sent them references for different hairstyles, different shades of color. Just like us, to black
Yeah.
folks. And when that first issue came back, you remember we were talking about an excellence when he got that fresh cut. I
Mhm.
kept having people look at Travis, who's one of the characters from Mind to Avenge, and they were just like, it looks like he just came out of the barbershop,
Mhm.
whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's because the artist kicks butt. He's a talented dude. So, but yeah, I'm in awe of artists. I mean, of what y'all can do. I mean, just as the storytelling and just visually, just looking at this. This is awesome.
Oh, it's very much appreciated, man. I envy writers very much so. Trying to step into the writing game is
Hmm.
not easy.
Hmm.
I remember when I read the first time issue number 3 of Hot Shot. It's my favorite issue that Vic wrote,
Hmm.
and it's just there's a life to those characters that he breathes into them. Like, yeah, I did a lot of work, looking up facial expressions, people crying, couples arguing, profile shots of anger, profile shot of female crying from the side,
Hmm.
biting lip while upset, like looking at all these different things to put all these emotions into it. And then I read Vic's words and I was like, fuck you. Like, like he just put a different breath of life into their
Yeah.
voice, and it's just
Hmm.
ridiculous. And I'm fairly new to the actual writing the
Hmm.
comic book aspect of things, so I normally plot the books at FSK.
Hmm.
But now I took over writing for Hotshot number 9,
Okay.
and I'm writing Emerald Quest, which we're on the 3rd issue of that. And it's just those little nuances, man, that you guys like all the research you do. You
Hmm.
know, making characters sound completely different from another character, having the patience to set up an arc, willing to wait, for that right moment to unveil
Yeah.
stuff. Like there's a whole level of stuff that you guys do too as writers that I'm very envious of and trying to attain myself.
Thank you, man. Yeah. It's a process. I mean, it's a it's a fun process. Sometimes it could be a slog. Sometimes you might kind of find yourself beating your head up against the wall, trying to get past a certain point. Um, but it's just fun. Like it's just
Mm,
like you start off with a kernel of an idea. There was, I'm bringing it back to Mind to Avenge. Like there was a story. So how like on how the Travel Channel doesn't do TV shows about traveling anymore. It's just ghost
yeah.
investigation. So yeah, so I guess the Travel Channel was like, "Fuck traveling, ghosts is where it's at." So it was very weird, but we like to. My wife and I like watching those shows. So there was one of those programs, and I can't remember which one it was, but they were speaking about a mansion or a house in New Orleans in the French Quarter, which is supposedly haunted. And the story behind that was, back in the mid 1800s, there was a slaveholding couple named the Lawleries, and the husband was, I think it was a doctor, and then also the wife was just like, just I don't know, like a fancy woman or mademoiselle or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
um, they were. This is the dark part of it. I mean, it's well, very dark because they were already slave owners. Um, they were torturing their slaves to the point, and that when the authorities were alerted to this case, when they came into the house, it was like a house of horrors. Like they were truly like psychopaths, and
Mm.
it was crazy. So this is an actual story. So um, the I think the wife actually was able to get away back to France, and I don't think that the husband ever faced any charges or whatever as far as as far as the story goes. But if you ever see the the second or third season of American Horror Story,
Mm.
Kathy Bates plays Mademoiselle Lalaurie. So I had heard about this story before, American Horror Story, and the idea that kind of stuck in my mind was, what if they were never, she was never caught. She was never caught. And as I had originally heard the story, is that they both had escaped. So that's, but after that I learned that, what really happened. But initially it was just like, what if, what would they have done? Did they just travel the world, being psychopaths, or, just killers or whatever? And that's kind of where the kernel of the idea for my story kind of built up from. And that's just kind of how it works with writers. Like, you give us like
Mm.
one little tidbit of something, and we will run with that. Because at this point, Mind to Avenge takes place like mainly in like a cyberpunk future,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like a BPRD style group called the Retribution Cabal, which only fights on the behalf of Black people, because we don't have our own Van Helsings, we don't have our own
Mm.
Buffy the Vampire Slayers. So that's what. So yeah, so the story kind of started with being very kind of interested in the story about what happened to these two, most evil, corrupt people that I've ever heard about, or some of them, and it just turned into something else. So um, yeah, that's that's the burden of being a writer. Like, you can't ever just like look at something and be like, oh, that's just that. It's like, there sometimes it's just more. You want to see more to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but yeah, and that was my first kind of step into horror. And writing like cyberpunk type of stuff. So I get to kill racist demons, so that's always fun. It's always fun. But yeah. So that's, writing is fun. Writing is cool. I think I think there was a question for you, Mike. I'll read it. Chris asked, "What are your tips on a beginner artist trying to improve?"
Oh, draw from life. Take a sketchbook, carry it around with you. Draw things from life every single day. You are not allowed to draw anything fun until you've drawn from life. So if that means a portrait, that means sketching out 20 hands, drawing out the window, drawing a model, drawing an apple on the table. Draw something from life every single day. And once you've done that, you can draw whatever the hell you want for the rest of the day, but do that every day. I was applying to go to art school in Cleveland, the Cleveland School of the Arts, and I went there, and there was an actual audition, like live. I had to draw live, and it was a thing up there, and I was like, "What is that?" And they're like, "It's a still life." I'm like, "What's a still life?" And it was just a bunch of stuff put together on the table with a light source on it, and I had to draw it. And I sucked, so I did not get into that school. And my mother made me draw from life every day. Like, I wasn't able to draw cartoons or comic book stuff until I drew from life. And then I went ahead and did the audition again, and I got in. So drawing from life is super, super, super important. I mean, once you get comfortable doing that, man, then you can draw whatever you want. But I would recommend that all day, every day.
And for me, just draw stick figures.
Yeah.
You'll no, it's kidding. If you draw stick figures, you'll go as far as I have with my art game. But yeah, um, yeah. Like I said, I'm in awe of y'all. When it comes to when it comes to the art side of things. So it's pretty cool.
Oh shoot, there we go. I think that should be. Bring that up. He's fine. He's fine. Bring that up. Then we're going to take this one. And we're going to. Hi. Yeah.
That's what's up. Nice, man.
No, I'm going to eat it.
Nice. We got up to. Thanks again for. If anybody in here backed us for the Armistice, we appreciate it. We appreciate the support, man. What's crazy is I got another Kickstarter coming up next week. So with another publisher, which is crazy. So, but nice. I love it. Um, so I just tell people keep an eye out on my Facebook page. We got some more news coming down the line.
Nice.
Yeah. That's what's up. This is nice.
Oh, you get these characters, and when you get to talking about like what they can do and stuff, I just get to kind of having a little bit of fun with them.
And that's how it should be. I mean, I love jam what do you call them, jam pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You just get in and you just flow. You just go with it. This is pretty cool, man. That's what's up.
All right. Well, thank you, Kyron. What's up, Tony, man? How you doing? All right. So we're going to do this.
Tony jumps in like I was watching Discovery. Tony is the guy who brought, and I'm going to say this, he's the guy who brought me into the industry.
Mhm.
He goes back to Terminus Media when the company still existed or whatever, but never mind. Long story for another day. But Tony is the guy who got me into comics and into writing comics. He saw my portfolio with the journalism and was just like, "Hey, you want to take a shot at writing comics?" And I was like, "Yeah." So, but the fact that you missed out on this live interview for Discovery, it's hurting my heart. He didn't even come in with an excuse to say I had to feed my child. He said, "I'm late because of because of Discovery." Anyways, I'm messing with them. I'll be quiet.
No, you're good, man. We like to give people a hard time here. All right, so I just put in there the links for Robert's books where you can go buy them. The links to the Kickstarter you were talking about earlier. The links to Cthulhu Invades Odds Kickstarter as well. The links to my FSK T-shirts. Let me see here. I got this one in the mail today. It is Chibi Art featuring Vigilance, done by Veronica Smith. I love it a lot. We have shirts on sale right now on the TeePublic page. You guys go check out for $13. We have masks, we have laptop covers, we have canvas. There's all type of jazzy stuff there, whatnot. So go over there, check that out. Cthulhu Invades Odds. Yes, that is exactly what it sounds like. It is Cthulhu literally invading Oz. It's a 140-page graphic novel with tons of talent on there, and I've also did a small piece in there as well. So be sure to check that out. And the link for Robert's books, where you can get them, Route 3, are all available up there. And in traditional fashion, we're going to hit the playback on this bad boy. This one was a fun one. From start to finish, drawing here. Like I said, Robert's reference that he sent me was a big inspiration. I wanted to show our character using a lot of power. Sean, I wanted to show him with a lot of power, but I wanted to try to do it in a way that had not been done from what he sent me so far. So I hope I pulled that off for him.
No, you did. You in epic fashion. In epic fashion. This is pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, and let me give you Robert's contact info where you can find him on social media, because I was super ready today.
Nice, man.
So we got all that in there. And if you like today's show, if you like what I do this on a regular basis. You can catch me as Most Epic Art on Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, something else in social media. I know there's like 6 of them. All social media, you can find me on there as Most Epic Art. I've been doing this whole thing with branding and making everything universal. I want to thank Robert for coming out to the show today and hanging out with me. We had a real good talk. I enjoyed it very much so, and letting me play in his world. I really wanted to step it up because I know Sean is the artist over there, and Sean's a beast.
Now Sean's gonna watch this and he's gonna be proud. Like we've had a couple of other artists, kind of do their take on it, and it always comes out like really well, which I'm really happy with. To shout out to Takia Marie, shout out to Don Hillsman, the GOAT, John Hillsman, and we had I want to say Nick. I'm gonna pull up a name now, but I want people to check his stuff out.
Yeah.
Talented dude. While that's going on, let me see. Nick Freeman.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, he's Nick Free Art, and so everybody who has kind of played in Sean's world has done a really good job. And you're added to the list, man. I appreciate that. It's really awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, sir. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'll be doing some. I think I'm gonna live stream one of the final pages I'm gonna draw for Hot Shot just for shits and giggles. I'm not telling you what page number it is or anything like that, but I'm really close to finishing this issue up and jumping into the next one because I'm going right to it. I want these books to come out one after the other. Because if I don't do it, you're going to be pissed because there's a cliffhanger after each one. And I am tearing at your hearts in this one. I'm sorry. It's the way it has to be. Thank you for tuning in today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, give me a like, give me a follow, a subscribe, or even give me a dislike. I don't care, man. I'm grown. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Let's have a discussion. But everybody else and Robert, thank you and good night.
Have a good night.